and welcome to the Center for Global Partnerships and Learning's Black History Month celebration as we elevate the voices of our students and have student panels this year. I am Sharletta Green. I am one of the graduate assistants in the center and a doctoral student here. I am excited to have my colleagues with me to celebrate those voices and the accomplishments. Let me tell you a little bit about the center. The center is dedicated to assisting our students in their journey toward completion of the doctoral program through helping them with publication and all the other pieces of the puzzle that you'll need to get to that end journey. So it's just part of the journey. So if you are looking for help with publishing, Scholarship Without Borders, our journal, we're always looking for authors and peer reviewers. We have certificate programs, or you can go to our Sakai site and look at all the certificate programs again to help just give you more skills and more to do all that you want to do with your doctoral program. We also assist in editing some of the work that you do as you're working with us at the journal. So we hope that you will join us. We also have each month cultural celebrations. So next month is Women's History Month. We hope that you will come and join us for all of the events that we will be having. My colleague Sue Ellen will be heading that up, so we hope you'll come and join us for that. We again thank you for being here tonight. I just want to acknowledge my colleagues. Dr. Brame is here, Dr. Asia is here, Sue Ellen. They are all part of the center, and we're excited that you're here tonight. The panel tonight is fire, y'all. I'm so excited to have my sisters and my brother with us. I'm going to introduce them just by telling you their name, and then they will tell you a little bit about themselves as we start this conversation. Tonight, the theme for the whole month has been hidden figures in Black history. And the reason why is there's so many names and so many contributions of Black people that are just not heard, not seen. And I think it's really important for people to understand what we as a people have been bringing from day one to the landscape to shape and mold this country into what it is today. And it's not always about the same voices, those and the same names. They've been wonderful, but they couldn't be who they were without many of the hidden figures that were behind them. And so we have been celebrating our hidden figures. And so we'll talk about that in light of thinking about Black resistance. And so I'm excited to introduce to you my colleagues, Cydnee Patterson, Quennette Stanford, Cecil Johnson, Dr. LaSchanda Johnson. We are so excited to have them as our panelists tonight. We hope that you enjoy our conversation, and we will leave time for you to engage with us at the end, and we'll also do something a little bit different tonight. We had an intro song. We've been highlighting historically Black colleges and their choirs. We did Hampton at the beginning, but we have a Hampton grad and a Prairie View grad, and we want to honor both tonight. So we will go out with Prairie View tonight. So thank you. So let's get started, you all. Again, I'm thankful to have you with me tonight. And you know, I won't call on you, just jump in when you feel like it. But the first question that I have, and I want you to give us a brief introduction of yourself as you're answering this question. Why is Black History Month important to you, and particularly right now? So who wants to start first?
So Quennette Stanford here. I am in my second year of PhD here at Pepperdine. So hope to be where Cydnee is real soon. I can get through this call at Pepperdine. And outside of school, I am an HR director for the Nike organization. I sit in Memphis, Tennessee, and so I travel frequently to Cali to attend classes. And so I am a widowed mother of two, and which leads me into why Black History Month is so important to me. I think it's really important for us to know where we came from in order to know where we're going and know where we should be going, because we come from greatness. Growing up in Memphis, I left after college and lived all over, and I just couldn't believe how much other world was out there for me to experience. But growing up in the inner city, poverty, poor schools, never really learning anything about Black history. We knew who Martin Luther King was. We kind of knew who Malcolm X was. He's painted as the bad guy. But then that was kind of it. We knew Rosa Parks was tired, didn't want to get up off her feet. And they just expected us to just understand that there's American history and then there's Black history. And then getting older and just meeting wiser people and really appreciating, again, being in Memphis, having the Lorraine Motel, the Civil Rights Museum right down the street. Never understood it as much as I understand it now. And still, every time I go, they add new things, but for the most part, it hasn't changed. I learned something new every single time. There's no reason I should have not have known who Fannie Lou Hamer was, but I didn't. Never heard of any of the ladies from Hidden Figures until the movie came out. So there's just so many reasons why Black History Month is important to me, and it just reminds me that I descend from kings and queens.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Who would love to go next?
I'll jump in following Quennette. Hi, everyone. My name is Cydnee Patterson. I am a proud PhD candidate of the Graduate School of Education and Psychology. Yay. And I currently work in public health, but I've had an extensive career in K through 12 education, primary education, specifically serving in low socioeconomic disadvantaged schools, all of which I also attended as a grade school child going to low socioeconomic disadvantaged schools. I, like Quennette, feel the same way why Black history is important, because in order to know where we're going, we have to know where we're coming from. Black History Month brings awareness to the key roles and contributions of Black people that Black people have made around the world, right? Not just in America, but around the world. It showcases the resilience of Black people, no matter what circumstances that have been placed before us, still we continue to rise, right? So we know that there are literacy gaps. We know that there are opportunity gaps. We know that there are socioeconomic disadvantaged schools that are 99% Black, right? And these kids are constantly faced with a disadvantage. I myself was in a low socioeconomic school, in a school where they say it's in the hood. Those people aren't supposed to succeed. And here I am, a proud PhD candidate at one of the top 50 universities in the country, Pepperdine, this little Black girl from the hood. So that's why Black history is important to me. For me to continue the legacy that has been led before me and just shine this Black girl magic, right? Again, we have to know where we came from to know where we're going. And so just to continue to do this work and put it in the faces of everyone.
I would be the brave one to go after the doctoral candidate, Cydnee. I'm gonna take a chance here. So, hello everyone. My name is Cecil Johnson. I am in the space and work in the space of diversity, equity, inclusion. New to that space formally, but always been a champion it throughout my career. I work for a top healthcare company, Johnson & Johnson, and I actually, my career spans from being actually in sales all the way to talent management and now to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, proud to be from Philly, and I am a proud Hampton University pirate. So just want to make sure that you know that also. So I was thinking about this question, and I thought about what's happening now and education when it comes to, or what's trying to be suppressed. And what I really thought about and realized was that we don't need permission to have Black History Month. We own it, and it will exist in the consciousness of this country and globally as long as we decide to maintain ownership of it. And it hit me, and it made me realize that this is a space in which we can share and make the nation and ourselves and others reflect, but also it's a time for us to project what's going forward. And something about this space is unique because I was at a Black History Month program last night at my son's school, and there were two young women there, two high school students, and Black high school students who they shared a poem. Each showed a different poem. One was about their Black hair and their identity and the pride they had in it and the experiences that they had. And the other was about their color and their identity and experience and their pride in that. And I realized that they can talk about that all year long, but there's something about the container of Black History Month that creates a different audience. It creates a higher level of exposure and gives them a platform that they can really stand on and propel them to other venues to be able to share their story. So there's something about what Black History Month and how it amplifies voices for the rest of the year and beyond. That's why I think that it is important.
All right, Dr. LaSchanda.
Hi, everyone. It is me, and I am a proud Southern University graduate. Jaguar Nation, that is me. What I do want to let you know is I echo every word that has been spoken prior to me. Quennette and Cydnee, yes, I am that same girl. I'm that girl that lives in the hood. I'm a Crenshaw High graduate, the one that said I shouldn't be here. I'm working on my second doctorate at Pepperdine. And they told me I wouldn't get the first one. So that's my why. I stand in the gaps in the spaces of so many sisters and young girls that look like me that have been told because you live in these areas and you're restricted to these school systems and districts that you can't get to the next level. And I am living proof that that's not true. So for me, those statistics are flawed. It's too many of my sisters that grew up with me in the neighborhood that bear the title of doctor. So let's be clear. When we do research, we might want to ask the right questions going forward. So that leads me to what Cecil talked about. He mentioned hair. When I first wrote my first dissertation, I started off with hair. My hair was always a topic. And my hair, it symbolizes, it is its own mood. It is what it is to be a Black woman. I enjoy my hair. I love my braids. I love Cydnee's hair. I love Quennette's hair, Sharletta's hair. However we choose to wear it, I embrace all of it. What I found on that journey was that it was a little bit more than hair, and it became challenges as I started looking at professional and career advancement of Black women. And that became my focus. So Black history for me, this is right on time when so when they said, what about Cecil's hair? Cecil, I embrace it as well. Exactly, I totally get it. But for me, you know, I started to look at the pathways of Black women and how they advance to leadership roles. And I am an internal auditor for one of the largest community college districts in the United States. And I've seen a lot of women that sit in lower level seats, but they have the skill set to be able to move forward. What I found is that the opportunities were limited. And there was little bit of a to no pathway for these women to succeed. And so that became my focus. And so as we look at Black History Month, it's a time for us to reflect on how far we've come, just as a people at achieving racial justice, but and at some point demolishing some of the structural hurdles that have prevented many individuals from realizing their human rights. But it's also a harsh reminder of the hardships and sacrifices of the devoted activists and advocates working to advance the cause of Black folk in America. And there's still a lot of work to be done. We get a chance to amplify our voices, and we speak to things that are in situations, and we bring highlight, and we shed highlight in this particular moment. And like Cecil said, it brings a different audience at this time. And it seems like all ears are open and listening. So I'm here for it. I'm here for it every day, not just February. But I'm very clear on my position and where I am.
Thank you all. This is already a very rich conversation. We are, yes, Black 365. And it's important for us to not just own it and celebrate it, but to make sure that we are inviting other people to see us, to really see us, and not just use us. Yeah. So one of the things that you all said, some of you were talking about, growing up in schools that are underfunded. And while this is not a question on the list that you got, I have the privilege of shifting the atmosphere if I need to. I want to talk about what it means for us as doctoral students, knowing that in many ways we've defied the odds. We've had, the community has had that conversation for years about the talented 10, right? And we're really not the exception, we're the rule. We've been called the exception because people didn't expect for us to be brilliant. How might we use what we've got, our positions, our voices, what we know about ourselves now, what we know about our contributions, more importantly, what we know about some of those hidden figures who did so much with so little, to shift the atmosphere for our young people today? Because I think part of what we do is we give back in some way. And so what do you think about that? How do we use this giftedness, this brilliance that we have to give back and pour back? All of you have talked about young people in some way, whether it's your children, your own experience. And so I think it's important because they're not our future, they are present. And far too many of them don't know that they come from greatness. Far too many of them live in the stereotype, live as if the only thing that you can do to be great in life is to run a ball in some way, shape, form, or fashion and still be owned by someone else. So let's talk about that. What you think?
Yeah, I think this will be the last time that I go first, but I'll go first. Only because this is a real passion of mine, because looking back over my life, it wasn't never God. I didn't do any of it. I look back and I'm like, how did that happen? How did that door open? Sometimes I got pushed through the door because I wasn't trying to walk through it. And I look at how far I've come, and I know that I owe it to the 7-year-old me who didn't know what she wanted to be when she grew up, to the 18-year-old me who knew she wanted to go to college because she wanted to escape poverty, but had no idea what to study, no idea what college would be like, no idea what career was, not a clue in the world. I had a guidance counselor. I had colleges come to the school to recruit. Mostly they sent military and not colleges to my school because they didn't expect us to go to college. So there was just so much against, and that's why I am one of 7 people in my entire graduating class that actually went on and completed college. It was a small class. I think we were a class of like 80, but that's still very small numbers. And so for me, one of the things I have been still working on my business plan, is really creating a non-for-profit for inner city youth, because if you can't see it, you can't be it. And one of the things that we need to do is show the kids what they can be. I knew you could be a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher. That was the extent of what I knew. I knew you could be like the Huxtables, doctor and lawyer. That was my plan. Didn't like law. Science wasn't for me. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'll study business. And luckily it worked out, but I had no path. Luckily God was guiding me, but I had no path. I had no idea. And so I think that showing children what they're capable of, and there's a program I have in my head, I can't wait to bring it out. But I just imagine all these professional people of just careers that you never even knew that you could hold. So for these kids that love to draw, who love art, who love video games, why are we killing their dreams? There are so many careers out here in those spaces where they can make money, right? They can make change. And again, we just have to learn how to nurture that like every other culture does. We just don't.
I guess I'll go next. It's like we're going in order, but I promise we're going to do it different the next question. So one of the things that I think that is very important is that we and I don't know this, I hope this is a safe space. I know that this is recorded, but I think that we owe it to ourselves as Black people to pay it forward, right? I had a mentor at Prairie View A&M, Dr. Clarissa Booker, and she said to us that she never wants to be the only person that looks like her in the room, and she never wants to be the smartest person in the room, right? And so a lot of times what we see is Dr. LaSchanda talked about these, when you start climbing the ladder in these corporate businesses, you start to see fewer and fewer people that look like you, right? We owe it to ourselves. When I had some students I used to teach at high school, right? And they're like, and I'm telling them about my experience because I went home, I moved from LA, I went home for a short period, and I said, while I have this downtime writing this dissertation, I'm going to sub at my old high school. I was very intentional. I wanted to share my experience with them. They were like, what are you doing back here? Like, you used to live in LA, like, why are you here? But I was intentional because I know what it's like to walk those hallways and not have someone telling you what's out there, not telling you what you can be, right? Everybody is aspiring to be the local drug dealer. Everyone's aspiring to go work at the refinery, because I'm from Beaumont, Texas, and it's a huge oil industry. Everyone is aspiring to be a teacher, but there's so much more. I had a classmate, we were in college together in our hometown, and I saw her, I was like, what are you going to school for? She was like, geology. I was like, who told you about geology? Like, we went to the same high school. So I always hype her up. I'm like, oh my God, you're a Black geologist. Like, from Beaumont, and I think we owe it to ourselves, once we attain a certain level of education, to go back in some capacity and educate the youth, right? Whether it's us being intentional about what kind of content we put on social media, because they're watching and they're looking, right? Where you might not be a teacher, so you can't have direct contact with them, right? But they're watching, whether you're at the family reunion, they hear how you talk, they hear how you dress, they hear how you walk into the room, right? We're exposing them to something different. We're showing them the possibility. We're acting as a mirror of what can be versus this glass ceiling of what can't be. A lot of times I see in other cultures, right? Susie has a high school degree, but because her father is an executive, he made some phone calls, right, for her to get this job, right? A lot of times Black people don't, when we get to these levels, we forget about those other people that look like us. So when I'm saying we have to be intentional about when we're in these spaces, taking up spaces and kind of throwing this rope, one of my students said, so you climbing this ladder, you talking to us about this, what you gonna do for me? I said, well, this is what I can do for you. I'm doing this so that when I'm in whatever space I'm in and you call me or you email me and you say, hey, Miss P, I'm trying to rah. I can say, okay, send me over your resume. Let me put you in contact with such and such. Oh, I have this internship available. Oh, I know, using my connection, using my voice to pull them up, right? We want to talk about, it starts with us. We can't put it on anybody else. Everyone else is doing it for their people, right? It starts with us. We have to start holding the rope, putting the ladder down. For when we get up here, we can't be so high and mighty. So that's what it means for me, pulling this rope, putting this ladder, showing them what can be. And like you said, everybody doesn't know how to do it. Now that I know how to do it, let me tell you how to do it. Let me give you the for dummies version of it so that you can read the manual and come through, because that's what everyone else is doing.
All right, I gotta follow. So I mean, I know Sharletta is the Reverend, but Cydnee's like preaching, and I gotta follow her, so I'll do it again. I'll try to be a brave one. But I think what I want to say actually ties to what Cydnee said, and I was jotting it down when you mentioned it. I think it's really important for us to tell the story, and tell the story right here with boldness and vulnerability. And if I were to just land here, I might, as a kid, I might be intimidated by Quennette, Dr. Johnson, Sharletta, Cydnee. Like I might actually be intimidated. And the reason why I say with vulnerability is to tell also the story of the external challenges and the internal challenges and the doubts that you push through, right? And the harsh critic, right? That told you that you were telling yourself what you could and could not do. All these things that I experienced just my first year PhD, let alone when I set foot on Hampton, let alone me walking in the neighborhood of Philadelphia. I mean, all of that, right? And I think it helps humanize ourselves and allows young people to see the path, and they see us in them, and they can say, well, wait a minute, if she doubted and he doubted and I doubt now, then I can still get there. So I think our story is important, and really talking about just our confidence in who we are now, but also the journey that we took along the way.
Thank you, guys. I'm just sitting over here smiling because you guys lit so many flames, so much fire. This is, for me, I was doing an interview, and I'll never forget this one thing in my interview doing my dissertation. I asked the question, was it worth it? Keep in mind, I interviewed 15 Black women who held the title of director or higher in a higher educational institution across the 50 states. I asked them, was it worth it? And it was centered around the challenges and practices. And there was one that I would never forget. And every time I move with something, I think about what she said to me. And after I went through all my 12 questions, I asked her, I said, was it worth it? And she said, yes. And I said, why? She said, because I wouldn't be talking to you. She said, my job is to pay it forward. She says, and that's what I'm doing. This dissertation isn't about me, it's about you. She says, so your job is to pay it forward. Your job. So I sit here and I built a theoretical framework called the Globox model for Black women. And it is something that I'm working to develop, because as I listened to Quennette talk about, she want to start the nonprofit for young girls who can actually shed some light using this model to show different pathways to career success for areas that they are interested in. And this model gives the tools that are needed for Black women to succeed as leaders. And this box is it's an emblem of shimmy shine, and it showcases the strength and perseverance and the reflection of universal awesomeness, counteracting the stereotypes that are frequently placed on Black women by the outside world and by ourselves. So for me, I'm always the one who meshes with the community. I work in the community. I am at your local eateries in the community. I'm very accessible in the community. I will encourage you. I tell everyone that they say, well, Dr. Johnson, you talk about higher education and for your universities. No, I talk about trades too and community colleges. I believe they're very valuable in all of our communities. I believe that you should visit them. Any chance I get, and I notice that anything is happening at our colleges, I am sharing it. I am encouraging those who have made it to the next level to reach back. How can I do that? You'd be surprised how many women, once I told them what I studied, these are people that I frequently conversate with that I never knew, who said to me, I don't know what to do. I'm at a stump, bro. How do I get past this hump? How do I get to the next seat? Do you know how many people are out there of your friends are like that? Associates, women that are like that, that look like you? These are some of the challenges. So when we have the organizations like Quennette is talking about, when we have the work that Cydnee is putting in and Cecil, the passion that's coming from him, this is very much so necessary that we are giving ourselves back, share who we are. I am that Crenshaw High graduate. I tell you up front, I'm a Crenshaw High graduate, I'm an HBCU graduate. If this is not the platform for you to hear me speak, then you might want to exit stage left. Because I'm here. So I'm very intentional on who I am. And I denounce none of my schools. I embrace every single one of them. Every single one of them, and the inner cities of Los Angeles, because that's where I live and that's where I grew up from. So that's it. That's who I am.
So thank you. What I want to highlight is the importance of embracing who we are and where we've been and where we're going. Because sometimes people get to a place where they think they've arrived and they don't look back. And they pretend like they didn't grow up over here and they don't know what government cheese is, and they don't know what it means to eat that peanut butter, right? They try to pretend like that wasn't them. And I think, to Cecil's point, telling the story, but it's telling the whole story. And so when I think about telling the whole story, the Hidden Figures, you all talked about Hidden Figures, the movie, y'all brought that up. Katherine Johnson was from West Virginia. In fact, she grew up not too far away from where my grandmother lived, and her sister was my grandmother's youngest sister's teacher. She went to West Virginia State College, and I'm a proud grad of West Virginia State. We didn't hear about her. We didn't know she existed. And what's so interesting is how we lose sight of our own people and their accomplishments over the years because we're not telling the story. So I decided to do a little digging at West Virginia State. The Tuskegee Airmen started at West Virginia State. I don't tell anybody that. Bishop Michael Curry, who did the royal wedding, his mother was a brilliant mathematician, graduated from West Virginia State. None of this was in the archives for us as students and now alum to even think about. So let's talk about these hidden figures and how we begin helping people to leverage digging into the archives so that we don't lose sight of the brilliance of our people and what we've done in order for the world to be where it is today. What you think? Who are some of those hidden figures for you? And they don't have to be big names. Hidden figures are people in our community that made a way for us. The little lady at church that was always giving up $1, but she never got above the dollar, but she would give you $1, the people that encouraged you, that were excited when you brought your report card and it looked nice. It might have been straight A's, but it was at least decent. Those folks, those are our hidden figures, and we don't tell their story, it gets lost. So who are those hidden figures for you?
I'm not going first.
Whoever wants to go first, jump in.
Okay. Nobody else want to go first? All right. So for my hidden figures, I would be remiss if I didn't begin with my own family tree, because who am I without them, right? I have a grandfather that was born in 1919, and he was a retired pharmacist. He was a college professor. And when I think about the adversities that he had to go through to become a pharmacist, he was born in 1919. Slavery had just not too long ago ended. And then I think about my grandmother, who was the first Black social worker in Texas and a Prairie View A&M graduate. And thinking about what it must have been like for her to be the first Black social worker in Texas, Southeast Texas, down south, about 10 minutes away from Vidor, Texas. Everybody in this room has heard of Vidor, Texas, and know that it's where Black people don't go, right? We're about 10 minutes away from there. And I think about, if it wasn't for the road that they paved, I wouldn't have my parents, right? And who I've watched sacrifice. Both of my parents didn't go to college like the traditional way, right? They didn't go to college the traditional way. They went to college, then life happened, and then they went back to college after I was born. So my mom was in her 30s, and my dad, they did like who had been in college the longest at his graduation, and he was the last person standing at his college graduation. He was old, he was an adult. But watching them and their resilience and this idea of not giving up, like whatever, like I set a goal, I'm going to achieve it. Those are the hidden figures for me in my life. I think about one of my professors, I mentioned her earlier, Dr. Clarissa Booker. She's a esteemed professor, she's a scholar, she's worked on project with the late, great Maya Angelou, right? And she's the reason why she brought awareness to me. I was at Prairie View getting ready to drop out of my master's program, and she walked up to me and she was like, have you thought about just doing this? Like, and we had a whole conversation about literacy and reading education and opportunity gaps for Black students, because that's what all of her research is on. And here I am, invested now because someone took time to see me in distress to stop and talk to me and give me, we're talking about some guidance. You don't know how you're gonna get there, what you need to do. And she gave me, this is what you need to do. This is what you're gonna do. This is how you're gonna do it. And look at me now, right? I'm invested in providing equitable learning experiences for Black students. I'm invested in mitigating literacy gaps. I'm invested in closing the socioeconomic gaps for my people. One public policy at a time after this dissertation. One public policy at a time after this dissertation. And so those are the hidden figures for me. They come straight directly from my lineage, my family tree. And even the homemaker, my granny, who's the one who didn't, she stayed home. She quit her job to stay home while my grandfather worked at the refinery to make an earnest living for the family. And she took care of her 6 kids, you know, that, so it doesn't have anything to do with the college or, like you said, those are my hidden figures, my ancestors, because I watched them time and time again rise above the occasion. And just only imagining, I deal with the little racism and prejudice and oppression that I've dealt with as a millennial growing up in Beaumont and just in life in general. I can't even fathom what they've endured and encountered. So those are my hidden figures.
I said I wasn't following her, so you all, somebody be doing that.
Okay, well, look, I'll jump in. My hidden figure is my mom. Oh wow, I've watched her do it all. I've watched her. So she's the first one in the family to have a college degree. And so she comes from an era where her family encouraged her to go to work. And it was a time when, you know, why would you want to, you know, go to school? You need to go to work, and these are things that you need to do. But her focus is, no, I wanted to be a teacher. She wanted to be a teacher. And she accomplished her dream of becoming a teacher. She's a teacher for a very long time. But what I saw during the time, I saw her raise 2 kids by herself. And I saw her still exceed to the next level while doing it. There were days that we did struggle and they were rough, but I didn't see her get tired. And that was interesting. So I always wondered, you know, in the midst of all of this, in the midst of the things that are happening in our lives, she still kept going. And that built up resilience in me watching her move forward at different levels. Every college degree my mother had, she obtained with me and my sister. And I believe she has 2 masters. I'm not sure if it's 3. She is a licensed social worker. She has a lot of alphabets behind her name. And she did that with me and my sister. And as she did it, I began to operate in a leadership role. And so I began to learn things. And that bit of resilience and perseverance at a time when, you know, if you were a teacher, your salary wasn't there. You were getting minimum to nothing. You were getting paid once a month. The benefits were a little bit slim to none at poverty level, so to speak. And I still watched her work Saturday jobs and teach evening classes and still managed to get multiple college degrees, certifications, licenses, and all these things. And for me, that became a pillar of something that I watched and said, things are going to happen, but we still have to keep moving forward. I can get a chance to kick and scream and do all that. I'm going to give, LaSchanda, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes or maybe even a day to do it. But life is still going to move forward. And you have to know that. And so just watching the strides and the different sacrifices that were made, that became a hidden figure for me. When I embarked upon this doctoral journey, I had no idea what I was going to encounter. And on this journey, I found out that the people that inspired me to get here were actually some of the people that I've actually worked with as an auditor. Those that look like me, that held the title of VPs and deans that I talked to all the time, who said to me, well, you can do it, why can't you? Sign up for this. Oh, LaSchanda, I included you in that. I added you to this. And I says, why me? Why me? Why did you pick me? So then all of a sudden the imposter syndrome kicks in. Like, oh, well, why can't I? Those are the hidden figures. These ladies are so important to me that even though they've retired, I still am in contact with them. I talk often to them. They are truly beyond a hidden figure for me. They are parts of my life now as I become who I'm becoming on my journey. I'm still writing my story. So my hidden figure definitely is my mom. My VP, who, if she's on here, I know she's smiling. She gave me a hard time being her auditor. When I say a hard time, but I think I've learned the most from her. And she set me in some of the most important spaces. And I'm grateful for her. And I'm still writing my story. So that's a hit for me.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Quennette, were you gonna go?
I was, but you can go. Son.
Okay, I'll go. So there's some parallels to all these stories so far, and it does start at home. And Cydnee, you'll see a connection here too. So I would say that my first hidden figure is Cecil W. Johnson Sr., because I'm the third. And my grandfather grew up in Denmark, South Carolina, down in Bamberg County, 60 miles south of Columbia. So that's where my roots are. And my dad talks about how he had about a sixth grade education, and sixth grade education. But what's so fascinating about it is that I only met him for 2 months of my life because he passed away when I was 2 months old. But I have actually his letters that he wrote my grandmother when he was in World War II overseas. And it's over 100 of them. And if you read his writing, you would think that he should be called Dr. Johnson. He didn't go to school after sixth grade. Well, he didn't go to formal school after sixth grade. But when I read it, you would never know that. But from him and what he was able to do and the standards he was always able to set in my family, my father, who also grew up in Denmark, South Carolina, he later is he's a Voorhees college grad, now Voorhees University. He stopped working in sixth grade to go. Now he stopped school in sixth grade to go work, and then relocated to Connecticut, and they automatically put him in ninth grade. And what he always says is that he doesn't understand. He knows God because he was out of school for 3 years, and he went to ninth grade and still did great, and he just caught on and so quick, and then later ended up being the only person in his class at the Philadelphia College of Pharmacy and Science, and owned his own pharmacy in Philly for over 20 years. And I kind of connect those because we're not going to read about my father and grandfather in a book unless I write it. But just what they put in place and what they sacrificed for me to be in this position, I think is just inspirational, not only for me, but for my kids and for others. It's important for me to tell their story. What is so interesting about the experiences of my grandfather and father is that they could have easily been instilled in South Carolina, never ventured out, never explored, but something in them said that they wanted to explore. And fast forward was why I had this Philadelphia accent. It's why I'm in Pepperdine, going into my, in my third year. It's why I'm going to be a doctor. All those things. And I think it is important to acknowledge your legacy and acknowledge your tree, because they really are hidden, but we are in such a great position to amplify them.
All right, last but not least, this time around, I will have to say, so going back to kind of my story of not, if you can't be it, you can't see it. The only women I knew that were Black professionals were, one, my aunt, she worked in a bank, and the rest of them were teachers. So again, I didn't even know what you do in a bank, so I didn't really understand that as a job. And so when I got in college, I landed an internship with Walgreens. Again, I saw, it's another example about why we need to reach back. So I went to Christian Brothers University here in Memphis, Tennessee, small Catholic university. But I remember my junior and senior year, like all the girls I would hang out with, the soccer players, they were all white. They were going on these global intern interviews. Like companies were flying them all over the place. I went to Walgreens. I had no clue. So when you think about your earning potential starting so late in life because you didn't even know what you were supposed to be doing in the beginning, that's a huge, huge impact to the Black community. But I digress. So I land in this role in Walgreens. I don't particularly love it. I don't hate it. It's a job. But I'm trying to figure out, what do I want to do next? I love education. I know I want to go back to school, but I don't want to go get my master's degree until I know why I want to get my master's degree. And I ended up applying for this role. I knew I loved people. I knew I loved to train. There was an open training position in California. So I applied for the job. The hiring manager at the time was actually filling in. And there was a Black woman who lived in Chicago. Blew my mind. To that point, I had never talked to a professional Black woman in my life. And she changed my life, because whether or not I was ready for that job, I don't know, but I did well. But she hired me. And I remember she flew me out. It's the first time I company car. She started flying me around to places, and it was her way of reaching back. And it was my first time going to Texas. I'm like, I love Texas. I'm moving here. I went to Chicago. I said, I'm moving to Chicago. I want to move everywhere I visited. I was like, this is great. But Kim Sullivan was just a phenomenal leader, very poised and professional, had a great career, had executive positions at lots of different organizations. And at this point, she had only been at Walgreens for like a year or two. And she just did so much for so many people. And so she's one. And then fast forward, my career is on the fast track. I'm growing. I'm moving every 18 months. I'm moving around the country to different companies. And I landed a role in Tampa, Florida, underneath just the most horrible boss I'd ever worked for. And I just knew I was going to quit. I was applying everywhere. It was a terrible situation. And then my boss got a new boss. And her name was Geneva Taylor. And Geneva didn't play. Geneva was the second Black woman I'd ever worked for. And I have never learned so much about, one, how to play the political game, to get what you need to get done at work. But then at the same time, we're recorded. So at the same time, making the space to, again, reach back, throw that rope to someone that Cydnee was talking about before, but do it in a way that doesn't, get others up in arms about it. And so it was just, so those two women like were just phenomenal leaders, phenomenal women, and just great mentors of mine. And so those would be for sure my hidden figures.
Thank you. I appreciate you all highlighting family and those that we that touch our lives that others may not see as hidden figures. I think that's important. I hope that you know that you will probably be some of those hidden figures for many of the young people coming behind us. And so I hope that they will say some of the amazing things about you that I know to be true just about you as scholars in this program, in the way in which I hear you talking about giving back to the next generation coming behind them so that this story keeps going. I have two more questions and then we're going to open it up for everybody to kind of talk with the panel tonight. I know that the time was a little bit different, but I have slated 90 minutes for every one of these talks for this very reason. So two more questions, and one of them is not on this sheet. But I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the importance of faith in the journey of Black folks, African Americans in this country. And no matter what the faith tradition is, and the role it's played in sustaining, maintaining, and propelling us into the places where we are. How has faith shaped and molded this journey for you as a leader, a scholar, a person of color in the places where you are? And what would you like people to know, or what would you like young people to know about the importance of faith?
I'll actually go first again. So I liked it the way it was. I kid. This one absolutely hits close to home. I have, as we all have, like life throws at you its worst, right? Because you have to show your resilience. And nothing worth having is easy to get. It's become my mantra over the years. But as a person who has been diagnosed and beat cancer, a person who lost her husband at a very young age, person who's adopted two boys who separately lost both of their parents at different times of their lives, to being in a newlywed relationship where a husband lost his job. I mean, when y'all read the book, you're going to be like, what in the world? How is she still standing? And when people ask that question, I'm like, it's God, because this smile is very genuine. Everybody has their down moments, but I don't go cry in my pillow at night. Like, I go to sleep with a smile on my face, and that peace only comes from God, because without him, you get to that place of woe is me, or why should I even try, because nothing I do ever works out right. I mean, there's just so many bad paths that your mind can take you on, if you let it. And so, I mean, feel what you feel, absolutely get it out, have those moments. That's important. But at the end of the day, believe in that God's got me, and what's for me is for me, is what keeps me in the right mindset to accept my blessings, because you block your blessings sometimes if you're not prepared for it, or believe that something greater is coming for you. So
I'll go. Thanks for sharing that, Quennette. So I'm switching up a little bit, so I'll go second. It's interesting because there are times where I have to reflect and remember, because when I'm in the midst of things, I'm thinking about everything else, but okay, I gotta believe. I'm thinking like, where's out of this, right? Oh yeah, that's right. There's God, right? Jesus in my life, that's right. But sometimes I'm just so in it that I'm like, man, somebody come in here and inject me with some Bible verses or something, because I can't figure it out, right? So I'm just gonna be honest, right? But what I have learned is that I really get it when I stop and just remind myself of the grace that's been in my life that I've been delivered from. Because when I reflect back, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. When I was there, I didn't think I would be here. And I start to realize that, oh, wait, you know what? I may not have been able to see the way that was going to be next, but I knew it was coming. And I would say each step of the way, my faith has gotten stronger. And the time between me saying, look, hey, what do we say? You know, God's always right on time, right? He's right on time, but sometimes it feels like he's taking a long time to get there, right? But I would say that my faith has given me something that I always have access to, right? It's nothing that I have to. There's no piece of clothing I have to put on. It's something that I can activate wherever I am, whenever I am. And it's been that really that piece that I can just, when I'm able to access and remind myself, wait a minute, right? This is what you have. This is what you have access to. It calms me, but it also allows me to testify to others and connect with others who I can recognize are going through the same thing, and let them know that it's okay. So for me, faith is really important, and I think you mentioned it, Sharletta. When I think about also young people, I think it's important that we also help them honor the challenges that they have and let them know that they have whatever faith they have, right? But they have it in something that allows them to know that there is hope and that there is something that while they can't see it, is going to be there.
All right, I'll jump in. I grew up in a church, and so my mom always had us in church. But then I got to know Christ for myself as I got older. Younger, I'm just going to church. That's the rules of the house. That's what we had to do. We did it. And as I got older, I built my own relationship. I'm like Quennette. In some situations, I know for a fact God carried me out of those places. Where I sit now, I look at some of my Facebook posts from 10 years ago and say, I would never sit here right now. Never. I look and I go, who is this person? Who is this person? I says, I can't believe I thought like that. I can't believe that. And I go, where am I? Then all of a sudden, I wanted to start going, listen to how interesting this piece is. So I'm on this doctoral journey. I'm trying to find a school to go to. So I'm going to all these schools. So you guys, I'm getting emails, come in, come visit us, come do, do a walkthrough of our campus, all of this. Pepperdine kept emailing me, poking me. And I'm going, I don't know why I keep getting Pepperdine emails. I says, maybe I just somehow fell into a mail chip some way and they got my information. So I says, okay. It just so happened one day, I'm sitting here, and this is how I got my college degrees when I realized I'm doing nothing. I said, I'm gonna go to their open house. I'm gonna see what this open house is about. Now, keep in mind, I'm getting nudged the whole time. It's different schools sending emails. And I'm like, okay, I think I'm ready for this space. Now, my son is gone, he's in college, I'm ready for this space. And I get to Pepperdine, and we go in, and it's the reception. And we all sit down, and everybody's talking. It's a room full of people. And then Dr. Majidi comes in and says, let's pray. I laughed out loud. I said, oh God, you work in mysterious ways. I said, Pepperdine is nudging me because it's a Christian-based school. This is the setup you have for me. I says, I received that. I received it. So this was interesting. So I called my sister and I'm telling her this. And I was like, well, I didn't know Pepperdine was a praying school. And I'm telling her all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, she gives me the gift of scholarship, go to school. I says, wait a minute. This your alumni. You want me to go to your school. I get here, they want to pray. Okay, God, talk to me. I'm in the room, talk to me. And everything just started falling in place. What I thought wouldn't happen started happening. What I started to think, I says, why am I here? One of the questions that was asked to me, I'll never forget, we had our first year. And so you might encounter it, but the first year they says, why are you here? That was a question. So I say, I'm here because, I'm from the neighborhood. I want to show my community all these things and I'm saying all this. And she says, hey, LaSchanda, thank you for telling me what school you went to, what college degree you got, but you still don't tell me who you are. Who are you? Why are you here? That changed my life. That one question. And I said, God, he said, tell them why you're here. Then I get a book from one of the deans. I'm not even going to say the dean's name that says, why are you afraid to tell them who you are? I said, God, you put these people on my path. So let me pay attention. So I know that I stand here with the first doctorate degree by the grace of God. This time around, he says, now your goal is to understand. He said, do the work. So I know for a fact that he's sitting in this space. I always call my mom and I tell her, you know what happened? She'll say, let's pray about it. Oh, she's a prayer warrior. She's at the church. She's at the deaconess. She's doing all the good stuff, doing the cookies and cupcakes. She's there in the church. She's doing it. So I call her up and say, Mom, tell me. Oh, let's pray. Let's pray. So clearly my paths, they're guided. They're guided. And Pepperdine has, I was done, you guys. I haven't been to a college that said, let's pray. And I haven't been there. And trust me, they didn't come in. I mean, my HBCU days, I was turning up, having a good time and doing all that stuff. But Pepperdine said, let's pray. I says, okay, God, I'm here. I accepted the assignment.
All right. Cydnee.
All right, so two things came to mind, and when I say these two things, y'all it's gonna be familiar. So there's one thing that come to mind of growing up in a Black church, Sunday school, the 3 o'clock service, mission with my grandparents. Oh, yes, long days at church, right? And they always say, if it had not been for the Lord on my side, where would I be? When you start talking about it and I'm listening to these stories, I get chills. I'm getting chills, right? It's another song that say, I'm not gonna sing it, but y'all heard it. And it say, I've had some good days. I've had some hills to climb. I had some weary days and some sleepless nights. But when I look around and think things over, all of my good days outweigh my bad days. I won't complain. And then it ended and say, he knows what's best for me, although my weary eyes can't see. I am nothing without God. Who am I without God? Huh? What has faith done for me? Cecil talked about when you're in the thick of it and you can't see it. I have a cousin that's on here right now. He just got his master's from Texas A&M University. Me and him would be in the thick of it, pulling each other through. Congratulations, KB, you did it. We would be in the thick of it. I almost got tears in my eyes. We would be in the thick of it. And I would just be looking at him and he looking at me, and we were going through things and we didn't even know we were going through it. And we were just showing up for each other. Meet me at the coffee shop, meet me at the coffee shop. And I would say to him, I'd be like, you know why I get so excited when I'm looking at other people's accomplishments? Because if God can do it for you, I know He's gonna do it for me. I know He is going to do it for me. Other people that Cecil talk about people getting envious, people getting jealous. There's no need for me to get envious and jealous because I serve a God who is able to do exceedingly above anything that I could ever ask or imagine. So why would I get mad? I've seen what He's done for my ancestors. I've seen what He's doing for me. You talk about growing up in Beaumont. Me and my friends I had to delete the Facebook. Me and my friends was doing some stuff. When I got that bachelor's degree, I say, ooh, no. Delete, deactivate. That person is no longer here. She here, but you know what I mean. So So we talk about God, and I'm just so grateful for him and all his grace and his mercy. I say, thank you, God, for your grace and your mercy. Even though I don't deserve it, you continue to show up and show out. Even when I can't see it, I be going through it. I be like, oh my God, oh my God. Oh, dude, where are you at? And then when I get through, I lost 2 grandparents in this program. Went through a divorce in this program. I was like, God, oh my God, God, where are you? God, where are you? And then when he brought me through, I was trying to get through this, trying to get these chapters 1, 2, and 3. Dr. Brown may know. Trying to get chapters 1, 2, and 3 done. Dr. Brown may know, and I'm a PhD candidate. And I say, oh God, that's you. He say, just trust me. You say you trust me. You say you're a believer. Don't doubt me. I'm showing you what I can do. So it'd be those little reminders. So when I'm going through and I can't see it, and I'm just like, God, I'm just gonna put one foot in front of the other, one foot or the other. That's how intricate faith is for me. Again, it's feel like testimony service, huh? Again, is who am I without him? There is no Cydnee without God. There is no Cydnee without faith. Faith is the substance of things hoped for and the things unseen. I can't even see it sometimes. I don't even know what the doctor Reverend said. I'm still writing my story. It ain't over yet. It ain't over till God says it's over, right? So, you know, that's what faith is for me. I'm so excited. I was so excited to come to Pepperdine, a faith-based school and college, you know, on top of it being a top 50 university in the nation for little old me. But but when I saw that they had God involved, like you say, Dr. Majidi started talking about God. I said, oh yeah, that's for me. It's go time. Yeah, I can't even worry about the student loans because God gonna take care of those too.
Amen. Let the church say amen on that one. We're gonna take that, receive it, walk with it. Oh my gosh, so rich. Last question. And I think what you all just said really goes to this. It's about Black resistance. When you talk about faith for Black folk in this country, it's a means of Black resistance. And I want to know what that looks like as a professional, having to stand in the spaces that we stand in every single day, knowing that we are held to a different standard. We got to jump higher, look better, be 3 times better. We got to say it better. And we not just represent us, but we represent everybody that looks like us. We the only group where when you're looking at things and one person does something, everybody's like the whole group of y'all. and so again, faith is a means of resistance, and has been, always has been. Faith starts out as a space of resisting the empire and pushing back on those pieces of the puzzle. So the question is, what does resistance look like for you as PhD students, as a candidate for the PhD, as professionals in your own right? You came into the program already who you are. This program is just helping to shape and mold who God has been calling you into the world to be anyways, and being more of who God sent you into the world to be. So what does that look like for you? And then we will open this up. Cydnee and Sang, I'll give a benediction at the end. The word has gone forth, right? We might need collection plate we can pass, right? But let me hear about Black resistance as you think about it from your own perspective, and then we'll let the group come in and talk with you a little bit before we close.
I'll start. Or I'm sorry, Quennette. I'm messing it up. So you want me to? Okay. So I've been thinking about this. You know, Sharletta, I asked you about it earlier, and the first thing I'll say is that it's necessary. And as I think about the panel, you know, it's 2020, and what all of you said, and just what I've learned from you is that it's 2023. We as a people have been in this country for 400 years, and we're still talking about the first of X, the only of X, the few of X. I just want to put that like 4 centuries, right? And we're still talking about the first of stuff, right? We're still talking about the first, not only in society, but in families, right? And, and it just, it says that it's necessary, right? It's necessary. And I put that it's about resisting the status quo, resisting the messages that are designed to suppress our memories, right? And our aspirations. It's about resisting the voice in your head that is telling you what you are not and realizing it's not really your voice. That's not you. And I think it's those things that create not only the confidence that you have, but enable you to move forward, but also be a role model for those who want to learn, how do I resist in my own way? Because I think resistance is unique to the individual person. I think it comes in very different forms. And I think we need very different forms. We need as many different strategies as we can get. And I think that everyone does it in their own unique way. But I think that it is necessary, it is imperative, it is critical, it is all the master's level and PhD words that I can put in it, right? But we got to have it. And if we don't have it, then we succumb to the voices that are not only trying to seep into our heads, but the voices that are fearful of if we don't resist.
Number 2 spot coming at you. I had so much to say on this one, but I'll try to keep it keep it brief. I remember when I started my new job in Tampa, Florida. Again, there were no Black people there, and I was transitioning to natural hair. For 2 years, they did not see my hair. I remember having conversations with my best friend, freaking out because I wanted to wear my curls at work. I wanted to wear my fro. I had chopped it off, it had grown back. It was cute. It was falling in my face and everything. I was like, wait a minute, why can't the world see this? And it literally took that hidden figure, that second hidden figure that I was talking about, because she came and she was biracial. She had the thick curly hair and she was unapologetically Black. And I just remember thinking, that is amazing. And I started rocking my natural hair and started recognizing that I could be unapologetically me and then show them that I was still the best at what I do. And so, one of the things that I think you mentioned, Sharletta, is that we feel representatives, like we're representatives of the whole. And one of the studies that I was reading, as in terms of some of my research, is the author was trying to decide or decipher whether or not having Black faces in higher places actually promoted additional Black leadership in organizations. But what they found is the exact opposite. Because once you get to a certain level, there's so much pressure on you that you don't want to put your name on anybody, right? Because you got to find the best of the best because they represent you, they represent your brand because you're pulling them in there. But then you get fearful of putting your name on anyone at all because of the backlash and the criticism you get, because you're the only that's sitting at the table, and just the stress that that creates. And it was such a fascinating story. And so I'll tie all this together to say that I want my work as a scholar to really help to bridge and breed collective resistance. Because I think the problem is we have pockets of resistance. And the pockets grow very large whenever we have, another shooting or another lynching or another this or another that. But for the most part, at times, and I think we've all been there, it's like, okay, it's good enough, right? We're good where we are right now. We've come a mighty long way. But that collective resistance to continue, $1 trillion spending power we hold in our hands. Yet collectively, what are we doing with it? Why is there still so much poverty and depression and prisons filled with our men? And so I just want to use what I do and how I move in the world of scholarly work to help fuel and kind of ignite something that gets us to move without ceasing.
John Lewis advised, he said, do not get lost in a sea of despair. He says, be hopeful, be optimistic. Our struggle is not the struggle of a day, a week, a month, or a year. It is a struggle of a lifetime. Never ever be afraid to make some noise and get in good trouble, necessary trouble. So for me, resistance is to be able to use my platform. Every presentation or conference that I attended as authentically me. If I decide to have cornrows, I will have them. If I decide to change my hair to burgundy red, in which they are now, I will do that. My goal is to continue to work in the space respectfully. What I'm saying to you when I say respectfully is that is to be me. Anything other than that is disrespectful. And so that's important. So as I go and I talk about the challenges that Black women face advancing to leadership roles and the lack of career pathways and advancement opportunities that are there for them, I speak to them as I would for myself. This is who I am. I might come to your organization with the Afro puffs that Quennette talked about. She talked about an Afro. I might come with puffs. They might be bright red at the end, but that's who I am. I might come with a shirt that says include Black women, because that's who I am. So when I stay in these spaces, I step in there as me, and that is the resistance that I'm getting. I don't step in the room as the angry Black woman. I don't step in the room as a Jezebel because I work out every day and my clothes fit me and I am a figured woman. You will not give me that title. I am who I am, and I would like to be respected in that way. So for me, that is a space of resistance, and I want women to understand that I don't have to make my hair straight to go to work every day and still be professional. I don't have to. Hair does not make us who we are. And that is a huge topic. And that's why we have the Crown Act in some state. That is a huge topic. Cydnee, rock your hair. Quennette, rock your hair. Sharletta, rock it. Cecil, I see you doing the doggone thing. That is resistance. So that's what I'm saying. That's who I am, and that's the space that I'm in.
Well, thank you. Resistance, Black resistance comes in many different forms, hidden figures. We all have them in our lives, and you all have brought fire tonight in sharing your story and offering your lens in this Black History Month. We are going to open it up to let some of the people talk with you just for a few minutes before we close. We're going to close with song from Perry View and a benediction, because this has been church, y'all. So let's talk to the people. Any questions, thoughts?
I have a question for C. First of all, this is just a panel. There will be, and I saw the people that were going to be on the panel. And so it has inspired me. But Cecil, because you talked about early on, we talked about your movement into the DEI space. I know that you work for Johnson & Johnson. We've had turn my camera. And we've had classes together. Moving into the DEI space, that actually hurt, because I was sharing in another session that we had yesterday that I got a new job, and I put in management, and I put in there Celebrate Black History Month in my tagline. And I was so angry because within 5 minutes after I sent out the first email, I was called into the office and politely asked to remove it. And I was just astonished, angry. upset, wanted to just quit, just a lot of things. Reverend Sharletta had to bitch and pray for me. So it was a lot. So when we talk about resistance, you know, I have my certain ways of resisting. I talk about how I will just, there's a Rosa Parks in me that would just have civil disobedience and just continue to do it anyway. I talk about there's a Harriet Tubman in me that will leave and take everybody I can with me. But I felt in this situation that was interesting after they talked to me about my tagline of celebrating Black History Month. I said, oh, great, we are starting to need a strategy and could you be on that team? So I thought, okay, is this an opportunity for me to leverage and that type of thing? But I don't have a background in human resources in that way. But my question to you though is, I talked to a couple of my coworkers and they're like, oh, that sounds cool. And they want to see it as cool. I want them to see it as important. So what is the strategies, or what are the strategies that you're taking right now as far as DEI and helping people to see it as important?
Right. Hey, Wendy, and you were breaking up some, but I kind of got it. So, but I did get it. And thank you for sharing that. I got most of the story and what you also were confronted with. That's the best way to say it. So it's interesting. So I think I've been transitioning somewhat with regards to my thoughts around this. But one of the ways that I'm focused on helping people recognize that it's important is really putting in the context from our organization standpoint in a business context, and really talking about this diversity, equity, inclusion journey is a critical business imperative as a part of our strategy, and also that it is a organizational capability, and that it is a part of how we actually win as an organization. And the reason why I do that is because we are very good at holding people accountable in any of our organizations that we work in, for their people's ability to execute against the business strategy and for the development journey and having the capabilities that are needed to be successful in the organization. I think one of the challenges in this type of work is trying to get people to believe what you believe when they have a different exposure, experience, and background. And some just won't because of how they were oriented. But what I do know is that regardless of whether you agree or not, if it is a part of the business strategy of your organization, you don't have to agree, you just have to execute against it. And one of the things I was, who's the author? Robert Livingston. If you ever check it, he wrote a book called The Conversation. And he talks about, I think he's out of Harvard, and he talks about holding organizations and leaders accountable. But one of the things that really struck me is that, do I really need to win people's hearts and minds? You know, that's a tall task, right? And since we are Pepperdine, I can say, like, Jesus didn't win every person's heart and mind, right? So in this journey, I need to connect it to the goals and the values of the organization I'm in. And I'm in an organization that it's valued. Hence, this role actually exists, right? So Wendy, I do think it's a part of how you want them to do the things that you're asking them to do, not necessarily always why they're doing it, because that will take you down a rabbit hole that is going to be very tough. And let me just say, I still fall into that because it's one of the few types of work that you identify with the work so strongly, right? It's you, it's a part of you. So that is what I'm kind of growing into as I'm in this role, is to start to recognize that and to acknowledge that and realize, wait a minute, I want the outcomes, right? And through the outcomes and the impact, then people may shift their beliefs. But even if they don't, I still get the outcomes of what we're trying to drive from a diversity, equity, and inclusion standpoint. And that is going to advance what we're trying to do.
Thank you. Cydnee, jump in for me. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So we're going to close out. Dr. Green, just talking about Black resilience and just reiterating some of the things that my colleagues saying. And for me, Black resilience is saying enough is enough. I'm showing up in spaces in my hair with my hair in its natural state, whether it's curly, braids, bantu knots, and I'm not afraid to wear these culturally relevant styles, especially in a climate where it's cool for everybody to be Black, but Black people. I'm reminding people that my intelligence is not determined on whether or not I subscribe to American, European-centered standards, beauty standards, you know, and I owe it to myself. I owe it to you all, my ancestors, my students that's on the stream right now to shift people's perspectives that have been doctrined into them in society, that cause people to think or prejudge people that look like me basically because of how they are dressed or how their hair is worn, and whether they use African-American vernacular because that's my first language, or they have Southern accents, right? Again, our ancestors created so much of what is used around the world in daily functions, and they had limited to no formal education due to systemic oppression. Our ancestors were stripped from their things from their name, their families were ripped apart and never reunited again, right? So Black, you're not going to strip away who I am. You're not going to take away my culture. You're not going to strip me down to conform to who you say that I should be, right? And so that is my Black resilience, right? I'm showing up authentically me in every space. Because why not? Because it's going to cause you to change how you look at other people. You know, a lot of people say like, oh, I like you. You're not like those other Black people. No, I'm very much like those other Black people. It might be my cousins, might be my friends. We're the same. And I want to always cause people to reflect and think that that's my form of resilience.
Well, thank you all. We want to honor your time. We are at time. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to each of my panelists for sharing, for being here, for offering an authentic word. My dear brothers and sisters, it is all about the relationships we develop and build. Without relationship, we have nothing. And if people don't get to really know who we are and we don't get to know who they are, we will stumble through this life every time stomping on people because we didn't get to know them. We're going to listen to we're going to go out on a song, but I want to leave you with this. May the Lord bless each of you and keep you. May the divine God in whose image we are each created make his face to shine upon you, and may he lift up his countenance and give you his peace. May the God who loves you without fail, who sent you into the world with purpose for being, gifts the world needs, and for such a time as this, for work to be done, allow you to live fully into your purpose and complete the work that the world may be a better place. I am thankful for each of you, and I am blessed because we've had this time together. May you go into peace this evening, that you may do the work that you're called to do in grace, in love, and in fullness. Amen. Let's listen to this last song and celebrate Prairie View as we go our separate ways.